Good afternoon and welcome to Shone's Thoughts. My name is Shone and I'm here with you today on the Fraser River Bridge, just outside of Hope along the number 1 highway. And through these bars, we're looking at a few houses that were lucky enough to be built right on the edge of the Fraser River. And of course, on a nice, beautiful day like this, it's the perfect home to have. And you know, one day I would myself love to live upon the river and watch it go by all day long and simply do a lot of no thing. Welcome to Shone's Thoughts. Yeah, it's a very beautiful day today, and actually I am on this bridge right now, and this is actually where I started my first adventure in filming. I took a whole bunch of pictures just underneath this bridge, as I've often talked about, and through those images I created a narrative to a episode called Journeys. It was my first one in which I wanted to travel around and tell the stories in my own creative fashion of those who, you know, sometimes go unnoticed. Not just the homeless or, you know, the nomadic people, but I mean just all of those souls that, you know, feel that they are unheard and they're unwitnessed. And yet that series has been delayed for several different reasons, and well, it's actually kind of interesting how I bring that into my conversation today. So I'm just gonna sit here. I believe I've set the camera up so that my head and everything is in the frame and such, and I'm gonna look over at the mountains that surround me on this side over here, and you're gonna look behind me, you know, make sure there's nothing behind me floating on the side of the bridge. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So I had this whole concept of this series, and you know, it does have 2 episodes right now. One is about my adventure underneath this bridge, and the other one, if you're interested, it's about my near-death experience in the Lijiang River in southern China. So if you're interested, I'll put both of those at the end because they kind of relate to today's conversation. And today's conversation is essentially titled something along the ways of utilizing the resources that we have at hand. See, if you've noticed, there's been a major shift in my channel, and I've been producing a lot of, or an increasingly number of these Shone Thoughts podcasts, and even other little things like my moving portraits on my podcast, Changing Stations with Shone. And well, you see, previous to that, I was working on creating other videos, other edited videos. But as time goes by and my resources have been slowly evaporating, I'll say sometimes even being taken away, you know, you could say that they were taken away in order to test my resilience if I would continue creating regardless of not having my video editor, for example. See, previously I was using a video editor called Movavi, and I was learning a lot. Actually, I taught myself almost everything that I know off that. I watched a few videos, but more it was trial and error. And through that trial and error, I was, you know, fascinated by some of the stuff I was being able to create. And this is what I utilized originally for my moving portraits, because I was able to, you know, do it on my computer, have it all set up, and then just upload that video with the song portion that I had chosen. And of course, I was making a lot of other remastered versions and of my podcasts, as well as ones that had images and such in them. But unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, that is a big rig followed by another big rig making this mountain or this bridge vibrate like crazy. But anyways, so essentially I was unable to re-up the subscription because, you know, things still haven't worked out the way that I imagined, or more importantly, the way I've already foreseen it happening. Meaning that a lot of the times we get these ideas in our head, and perhaps they aren't necessarily ideas that are, you know, light bulbs in the head. Maybe they are sometimes, like, you could say, images from a future potential. And so my idea of the future potential is essentially to be doing what I was wanting to do with that Journeys. And that was traveling around and creating these interesting stories, things that I found interesting. See, that's the important thing when following a passion. It's following what you're passionate about, as opposed to following or trying to create something that other people will be passionate about. And that's essentially the conflict that I found myself in recently, is wondering why, not wondering so much as in exploring the reasons perhaps why these videos haven't reached the audience that I have yet to seek, or that I've yet to already foresee. And perhaps that was because I had to be able to stand a lot more on my own 2 feet, regardless of what the world around me told was right or wrong. I've had a lot of good-hearted people tell me I need to do things differently. And they give me their best suggestions. And, I do learn from some of it, as I've showcased in some of my podcasts. And one of them specifically, when I created the idea of Shone's thoughts, extending the conversation together. See, that was all brought about by criticism, essentially, but I turned it into constructive criticism. And yet, if you're wondering why I don't have any more Do No Thing videos coming out recently, it's mostly because the tools that I have aren't able to produce that. I do essentially require my Movavi back or some sort of digital video editor. And yet to do that, I require, currency. I require a flow, an increase of currency incoming. And I do honestly believe, fully within my heart, that I have done a lot of work. And when I say work, I don't mean the work as in going to a 9 to 5 and slaving away and feeling tired afterwards. When I do what I do it because I have passion and I love doing it and I really enjoy doing it. And honestly, right now, in a sense, I am doing work, because in order to get to the ability to sit here and talk as I am on this bridge in the middle of a Monday traffic outside of a small town, with a train underneath me, apparently, I had to do an awful lot of work to get here. An awful lot of healing, an awful lot of, inner reflections, looking at myself internally and figuring out that which I don't need, taking leaps. In order to take those leaps, I had to let go of so many different things. So, when I talk about utilizing the tools that I have, I've continued doing that. I've continued picking up new and interesting different tools, different AIs, learning how to use ChatGPT, although originally I was against using AIs in any way a long time ago. And learning other tools and looking for free tools that can perhaps, elevate my game. And I've essentially found several of them that are out there that allow me to even upload my videos in an audio-only format to podcasts on Audible and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, allowing me to branch out my audience and reach perhaps you right now. If you're on Audible or Spotify or Apple, you might not be able to see me, but right now I'm sitting on a bridge over the Fraser River, and right now it's kind of hard to see from where I'm at. Maybe I'll show you at the end of the video what it looks like where I am. Well, this water is about 40 feet higher, supposedly. Means that the river has an excess amount of water from perhaps spring runoff, although we are in, moments before summer. So goes another giant rig. So back to what I was saying is I've learned how to utilize those tools that I have, although honestly, I really do wish to have more resources so that I can actually move on and continue on with all of those other podcast ideas that I have. The Journeys podcast. I would love to get back into the podcast that I was doing called Illuminating Language. That one I was utilizing an AI tool called Jasper, and I was able to personally create, along with the AI, all of those beautiful images that you see on the Illuminating Languages videos, if you've looked at them. And there's a lot of other ones as well that I've had differing tools, and as times went by and the resources weren't renewed, I moved on to learning about something different and essentially built up a large amount of skills of how to package up a podcast, how to do multiple podcasts, how to create images, how to create metadata, how to create so many different things that supposedly are important in this world that we live in when it comes to, digital media and overall social media. I have resisted against getting back on, actually, I won't say resisted. I've been guided to stay away from anything meta. That means Facebook and Instagram. I recognize that should I, or if I was able to get back on those platforms, that perhaps I would have a larger reach. But I also recognize that there's a lot of toxicity on Facebook. That was my experience just before I left. I once made a comment about after Shoppers Drug Mart was purchased by Loblaws, that all of a sudden there was a lot of candy and chocolate and garbage food with the FCF colors in them and Skittles and all this stuff put up all around the cash register, and yet in the back of the store they still had the signs talking about how they were there for your health. But yet in order to get to the pharmacy that was in the back of the store, you have now to go through a ton of toxic cosmetics. By the way, cosmetics and perfumes are poisonous. That's my opinion, of course. As well as a whole bunch of garbage food and a lot of garbage stuff that Shoppers Drug Mart turned into a small superstore in a sense. Anyways, the story that I was telling was that I essentially put this out and made mention of this on Facebook. And then all of a sudden, I got so many comments of people that I didn't even know who they were, chopping me down simply because they disagreed. And it might not even have been that they disagreed. They just wanted to lash out at someone who was perhaps telling the truth. Maybe they even thought about that themselves. But yet, that was essentially the end of me being on any of that Facebook, and I've never actually been on Instagram, but that was the whole end of me being on any type of platform that was like that. Although I do recognize the benefits of being on a social media platform. I actually participate on a little bit of Telegram and a little bit, or actually a lot, when it comes to the United News Network community app. And so essentially those are by far enough for me when it comes to social media. But I'm realizing now that even YouTube is more of a social media app as opposed to a, mainstream entertainment, or I don't know. Anyways, YouTube is different from what I thought it was. And yet I've, once again, same thing, utilized that the best as I could. And I even utilized, or started to utilize, the podcasting efforts of Rumble. I found that to be very cool. And yet I was challenged at times because, as I mentioned before, on my phone, the Rumble app wouldn't work. And then when I finally got it to work, it doesn't allow me to see the frame that I'm looking at if I'm using it mobile. So using it on a laptop is phenomenal, but you need to have a home base in order for that to work. And currently, as you know, I'm out on the road in between places on these adventures, enjoying myself. Truly enjoying myself. I mean, it's now been 14, 15, 16 days. Yeah, it's been 16 days that I have been living outside, camping from space to safe. And I've done some impressive camping, if I do say so myself, living, of course, in campgrounds with lots of other people, but then also staying in campgrounds where there were very few people, because it's not exactly the season to camp yet, and the weather has been interesting. We went from days of lots of rain to days of sunshine, and and I've even had the opportunity, as I've mentioned in a few of my podcasts, to stay in off-grid campsites. where I was the only one around for a little bit. And that was a phenomenal experience, to be immersed within the beautiful harmony of nature and all of these evergreen trees and these lakes and rivers, and just, it's amazing. And I truly do feel that more of my life going forward is a nomadic life, meaning not that there isn't a home base, because a home base is a great place to, have to retreat to. But yet, just like Ash on the Pokemon show, he's always going from place to place. He has his home where he grew up with his mother still there, and he has his bedroom, but he continues on an endless journey to find new places and new opportunities and new friends. And I have wanted to do that for such a long time, and so I can totally see the reasons why everything ended to be the way it was, but yet it wasn't necessarily an end, it was the beginning of this amazing journey that I'm on now. And as I've mentioned before, there are pieces that I still need to reclaim. Ones that have been perhaps parted with for a short time, but yet I wish to recollect them and reconnect with them. And, they are important to me. But yet at the same time, I recognize that we all have our own journeys, as I've mentioned before. And so back onto the title of this is that I truly do and have found strength in utilizing all the tools when they come to me, recognizing that when I lose something or I'm not having access to something, that it's just simply an opportunity for me perhaps to learn how to use something different. And I do intend to get back a digital video editor, because I have 10 podcasts, or they're not all podcasts, but 10 different series that I have been putting my love and harmony into, and my vibration and my frequency. And I truly do wish to get more of those out there. And so that's why I even learned how to use PayPal, for example. I'd used PayPal a long time ago when I was working with eBay, but I didn't have it any longer. But I figured out how to use that, and I figured out how to use Patreon, and I brought those in as potential avenues for income. And so if you don't already know by all the information that I put in the description, I have a Patreon community where I'm looking to bring together 1 million people who all have $1, and to do something extraordinary with that dollar. You think about it, the dollar you have in your pocket right now could be part of a monumental change in someone's life. So if you're interested in joining a community where our priority will be the restoration and the beneficial revealing of this planet that we're living on, then definitely check that out. And then as I said, I even made it so that I could move away from the older financial system a little bit more by employing PayPal as a method for payment, rather than having to rely on credit cards that essentially fund some elite families somewhere with all of those fees and interests and all that lovely stuff. I personally prefer to live on a cash-like system, and perhaps even move more into a barter-like system. But for now, while we are here in the system that we're in, PayPal might actually be a great way of, connecting and supporting one another. And so I even, on all my videos over the last month, have been including my PayPal just so that I could open that opportunity. And it might not necessarily be for what I believe it to happen. I did create a category on Patreon, for example, and it's the highest tier that I currently have, and it's for an $11,111 $11,111.11 tier, where a person can contribute to changing this world so dynamically and different that I still haven't even fully flushed out what I'm going to do with that category. But I have great ideas, and I just keep moving along, utilizing all of the tools that I have. When I receive money, I use it in a thoughtful way. When I receive a step back and, I'm evicted from a home, well, I found a way to turn that to my advantage as well, because I let go of all the stuff that I couldn't carry with me. See, I had the experience in my 20s of being able to carry everything that was important to me on my back in a backpack as I backpacked across China and Japan. And so it's that saying that I've said is when you're given lemons, forget the making lemonade, make lemon meringue pies. And while you're at it, make 20. Just turn those and utilize those positive experiences we have and those challenges we have, and turn them into immense positive experiences. Things that build you, strengthen you. So while I'm still essentially looking towards re-upping my subscription on Movavi, you never know, maybe there's someone right now that's listening to me that wants to see another Do No Thing video and has the ability to assist me with that in any way. Then that's really, well, it's made possible. It's made possible by PayPal and Patreon. Now back to you, Shone. Anyways, yeah, I just keep wondering what's the next tool I'm going to get to utilize? What's the next person I'm going to get to connect with? What's the next comment I'm going to get to respond back to? What's the next challenge I'm going to face? And regardless of how it comes about, I know I'm going to come through with flying colors. Because as Fabulous said, or Fabuloso, it's my time. It truly is. It's truly our time. It's our time. If you have a creative part to you, get out there and be creative. Create anything. I've talked about this before. Create paintings, create drawings, color in your coloring book. Draw pictures, take photographs. Create anything, like make clothing. Get your sewing machine out that you haven't used for a very long time and, just stitch some stuff together and call it. Put a puzzle together. Just create. Or you can do what I suggested in my former video and create a video as a response to one of my videos. 5 minutes, you'll find the details in, well, I'll put it right here when I upload the video, but find the I don't know where it is in numbers, but anyways, create a 5-minute and respond to something that I say and be part of, my podcast that maybe I'll eventually create if I get people that are willing to participate. Or just go out there and sit on the ground in your bare feet and enjoy our planet, enjoy the day that we're in, the moment that we're experiencing, because we are here for something extraordinary. We all are. You too. I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to go see what more I can utilize in order to perhaps strengthen myself even more. Can you imagine that? Even more. I'm going to continue getting back up, just as I am now. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to all of the interactions coming soon to a theater near you.